वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी कुशोदनन्दना रजजनरञ्जना यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजाकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतशिशिमाद His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON BBT Samsthapak Acharya His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya Naranchaiva narottamam Devim saraswatim vyasam Tato jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu Nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati uttama shloke Bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. So this morning we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 12, in the matter of creation of the Kumaras and others, Text 4. Sanakam cha sanandam cha sanatanam athātmabhūḥ sanat-kumāram cha munīn niṣkriyān ūrdhva-retasaḥ sanakam cha sanandam cha sanātanam athātmabhūḥ sanat-kumāram cha munīn niṣkriyān ūrdhva-retasaḥ sanakam cha sanandam cha sanātanam athātmabhūḥ sanat-kumāram cha munīn niṣkriyān ūrdhva-retasaḥ sanakam cha sanandam cha sanātanam athātmabhūḥ sanat-kumāram cha munīn niṣkriyān ūrdhva-retasaḥ sanakam cha sanandam cha sanātanam athaātmabhūḥ sanat-kumāram cha munīn niṣkriyān ūrdhva-retasaḥ sanakam cha sanandam cha sanātanam athātmabhūḥ sanat-kumāraṁ cha munīn niṣkriyān ūrdhva-retasaḥ sanakam cha sanandam cha sanātanam athātmabhūḥ sanat-kumāram cha munīn niṣkriyān ūrdhva-retasaḥ sanakam cha sanandam cha sanātanam athātmabhūḥ sanat-kumāram cha munīn niṣkriyān ūrdhva-retasaḥ. Ladies? Sanandam cha tanam atha-tmabhūḥ sanat-kumāram cha munīn niṣkriyān ūrdhva-retasaḥ sanakam cha sanandam cha sanātanam athātmabhūḥ sanat-kumāram cha munīn niṣkriyān ūrdhva-retasaḥ. Sanakam, Sanaka, cha, also, sanandam, Sananda, cha, and, sanātanam, sanatana, atha, thereafter, ātma-bhūḥ, Brahmā, who is self-born, sanat-kumāram, sanat-kumāra, cha, also, munīn, the great sages, niṣkriyān, free from all fruitive action, ūrdhva-retasaḥ, those whose semen flows upwards. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. In the beginning, Brahma created four great sages named Sanaka, Sananda, Sanātana and Sanat-kumāra. All of them were unwilling to adopt materialistic activities because they were highly elevated due to their semens flowing upwards. Purport. Although Brahma created the principles of nescience as a matter of necessity for those living entities who were destined to ignorance by the will of the Lord, He was not satisfied in performing such a thankless task. He therefore created four principles of knowledge: Sankhya or empirical philosophy for the analytical study of material conditions, Yoga or mysticism for liberation of the pure soul from materialistic bondage, Vairagya, the acceptance of complete detachment from material enjoyment in life to elevate oneself to the highest spiritual understanding, and tapas or the various kinds of voluntary austerities performed for spiritual perfection. Brahma created the four sages Sanaka, Sananda, Sanātana and Sanat to entrust them with these four principles of spiritual advancement and they inaugurated their own spiritual party or the sampradaya known as the Kumara Sampradaya and later on as the Nimbarka Sampradaya for the advancement of bhakti. All of these great sages became great devotees, for without devotional service to the personality of Godhead, one cannot achieve success in any activity of spiritual value. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to Canto 3, Chapter 12 in the matter of creation of the Kumaras and others, Text 4. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shulakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Caitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tamsa Jivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanasaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtai Bhutale Srimate Jayapataka Swaminiti Namine Namacharya Padaya Nitai Kripa Pradayine Gaurakata Damadaya Nagragramatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtai Bhutale Srimate Gopi Paranadana Dase Iti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtai Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Bande Shri Gurudintarinam Yatkripatamaham Bande Paramanandamadavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Katanchana Smrite Yasmin Dushkaram Sukaram Bhavet Vismrite Vipritam Syat Shri Chaitanyam Namamitam. So here Srila Prabhupada, while explaining what is happening, concludes by saying all of these great sages became great devotees, for without devotional service to the personality of Godhead, one cannot achieve success in any activity of spiritual value. Those of you who are studying Bhakti Shastri, Bhagavad Gita, would know that Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains that the 6 chapters in the middle of the Bhagavad Gita are about bhakti. The first 6 chapters are about karma, and the last 6 chapters are about jnana. And bhakti is deliberately placed in the middle because it touches both karma. It's like if you have a sandwich, whatever is in the middle touches both sides. So similarly, bhakti is placed in the middle because it touches both karma and jnana, due to which both karma and jnana become fruitful. So you will find that even in the chapters in karma yoga or even in the chapters on jnana yoga, there is always some element of bhakti which is introduced in the chapter. So this is the standard Vedic understanding, that nothing can be successful if there is no element of bhakti. But the result is not always the same. So the result of jnana yoga, the result of yoga process, ashtanga yoga, they're all different. And the result of bhakti is also different. So through bhakti, one can realize Krishna and his associates in their entirety. Whereas through jnana, you can maximum come to the stage of impersonal realization. Through ashtanga, you can come to the stage of paramatma realization. And through the process of bhakti, we can come to the stage of Bhagavan realization. So now all of this has been explained to us in great detail by Srila Prabhupada in his purports. So here it is mentioned how the four principles of knowledge or spiritual advancement here are mentioned as Sankhya, Yoga, Vairagya and Tapas. Now one thing that we need to understand is that Bhakti Yoga has elements of analysis. For example, Bhagavatam, what does it say? This scripture distinguishes reality from illusion. So there is always that element of trying to distinguish between matter and illusion, what is what. Similarly, yoga here, connection with the Lord. They establish connection in a certain way. We establish connection in a different way. But that connection is there. Sometimes when we think of the process of Ashtanga Yoga, that's commonly understood, even Prabhupada also writes it, is impractical. It's very intense. How can we practice? But then we also have from the Bhagavatam, whether one is akama, which is free from all desires, sarvakama, whether one is full of desires, or moksha kama, one is desirous of liberation. Whether either of these situations, what is the prescription? Tivrena bhakti yogena. So, when we have this concept of yoga, normally we think of Ashtanga Yoga, and we know that it's very difficult. But there is one element of yoga which is common to every system of yoga, which is intensity. One is the difficulty. Something can be intense but not difficult. Like for example, bhakti. Bhakti has to be practiced intensely. Tivrena bhakti yogena. So Prabhupada created a program for us, the Mangalarti program, and then Japa and the Bhagavatam class. And Prabhupada said 24 hours, 24 hours. That phrase Prabhupada very commonly used. 24 hours one has to be Krishna conscious. So the concept of intensity is the same for all systems of yoga. Just that our process is intense but easy. Whereas Dhyana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga is intense but also difficult. So therefore it is impossible for those of us in this age. Here as Prabhupada writes that without devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot achieve success in any activity of spiritual value. So the whole purpose of Bhagavatam is to make us achieve success. What kind of success is the Bhagavatam trying to make us achieve? It is not the success of Jnana Yoga, neither is it the success of Ashtanga Yoga. The kind of success that the Bhagavatam is trying to make us achieve is the success of Krishna Prema, the rarest kind of success. So, for us, in our practice, we have, as Sarup Bhattacharya explains, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give us three things: Vairagya, Vidya, and Nija Bhakti Yoga. So we may wonder what is the connection: Vairagya, Vidya, Nija Bhakti Yoga. Are these all separate? Are these all separate, or how do they actually function? So Prabhupada explains this very nicely to us, that that everything begins with sadhu sangha. When one associates with sadhus, or let's say somebody gets a book, then they start reading it. And what is Prabhupada's requirement? What does he say in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita? He says, at least one should have theoretical faith, just that theoretical faith that whatever is said here is true. He's not even asking that we should have faith, at least theoretically. Start with that point. So this is what the sadhus inspire by their association. Try it. Try it. As Prabhupada would say, what is the loss? Try it. You're anyway trying so many things. Try this. So everything begins with that theoretical faith caused by the association of sadhus. It is always caused by the association of sadhus, either through the book or by the living sadhus. That component of let me try, that theoretical faith. So once one takes up that word of the sadhu, that let me try it, then one attempts to practice. And the most important element of our practice is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. And of course, there are so many other elements in our practice which Srila Prabhupada has given us. And he's also stressed on giving out this Krishna consciousness to others. Have theoretical faith to begin with, practice, preach. So these three things are the inseparable components in the life of a member of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. People may still be devotees, they may just follow the first two elements, faith in scripture and practice. But to be identified as a member of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, we need to have all the three. We need to have faith in scripture, at least theoretical to begin with. We need to practice, and we need to preach. In fact, I'm not making this up, but this is Prabhupada's technical definition. If you look up in the Caitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada defines who we are. Prabhupada says we are the Saraswatas. Saraswatas. So, and he says, what does a Saraswata mean? He gives a two-pronged definition of it. One, those who broadcast the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Two, those who defeat all kinds of atheistic propaganda, anything that is opposed to the teachings of Rupa Goswami. And he says this is a Saraswata, and this is the definition of members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Of course, one may wonder, where is the element of practice? But Prabhupada's point was not, okay, without practice, how can you preach? That's a given. But to be identified as a Saraswata, Saraswata means a follower of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Because there are Rupanugas who may not preach, but the Saraswata line, this line of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, to which Srila Prabhupada identifies himself, is very clear that we have to practice and preach. So what happens in this process is, in the beginning one begins with theoretical faith, then one has to practice nicely, and one has to preach according to whatever is one's realization. You can't avoid preaching. We cannot avoid preaching. We have to do it. So whatever is our realization, just like Prabhupada during the time that he was physically manifest on this planet, he would sometimes use the example of Saraswati, Mother Malati's daughter, and he would ask her some questions. Who is Krishna? And she would say, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada says, look at this, she's a preacher. So this is Prabhupada's definition of a preacher, that of course there are various levels of preacher, but everybody can preach. Everybody can preach whatever they have learned, and one has to do that. And of course Prabhupada said book distribution is the best form of preaching. So it does not mean that one has to necessarily talk to people one-to-one, spend long hours, but even if a little bit what one can talk and distribute a book, that is also preaching. In fact, that is the most important form of preaching. So when one does this, then what happens? Our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, is pleased. So then what happens? When our founder Acharya is pleased, then we begin with theoretical faith. That theoretical faith slowly, not slowly, it begins to become realization. Realization. So it's no more theoretical. Yes, I can experience this. Realization means experience. Because in the modern world, there is only information. But in Shastra, it is not just information. Knowledge means both information and experience. That's called knowledge. So initially it's theoretical faith, there's information. We're acting on it by practicing and giving out Krishna consciousness. Then that theoretical faith becomes realization. You also got some experience component to that. And as we repeat this cycle of hearing from scripture, hearing from Prabhupada, hearing from scripture, hearing from the Vaishnavas, practicing and preaching, then we please Prabhupada and the Vaishnavas, and because of which, now that's very important, one has to practice in such a way that one pleases Prabhupada and the superior Vaishnavas. One can always practice in a very unfavorable manner also. One can be very angry, one can be whatever, one can be very egoistic and even while distributing books. But the idea is to do it in a favorable manner as prescribed. When that happens, then Srila Prabhupada and Vaishnavas become pleased. And when they become pleased, I mean, we sing the prayers. It's not just some theoretical prayer. That yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado yasya prasadan nagati putopi dhyayan stuvam sasyashastri sandhyam vande guru shri charanaravindam. This is the first prayer that Prabhupada wanted us to sing in the morning, to just hammer it in our consciousness. So it's very clear to us, this is what we're supposed to do. The last line is yasya prasadat. So in all our activities, we are meant to please Srila Prabhupada. So when that happens, then one can see that this theoretical knowledge begins to become realization. And as realization kicks in, then the practice becomes more easier. And as the practice becomes more easier, then we are more selfless in our preaching. In the beginning, we may have various motives for preaching. Nevertheless, Prabhupada said everybody should preach. But as our theoretical knowledge becomes realization, then our practice becomes more easy and our preaching becomes more selfless. So like this cycle we have to keep repeating until we come to the point of no more faith. Everything is realization. So, I mean, the faith is required as long as you don't have a realization. But once you come to the stage of full realization, there's no need of any faith. What faith do you need? You already have realized it. So one comes to the stage of bhava or prema. And then, I mean, it's no more a practice, it's no more sadhana bhakti, it is just bhava bhakti or prema bhakti. And once one comes to that stage, one becomes inclined to preach unlimitedly, like Prabhupada did, unlimited preaching. So we have to constantly apply ourselves to these three steps and come to that stage of prema, and by which we also preach unlimitedly. So Prabhupada said that I want to have the benediction of dying like Arjuna died, of dying on the battlefield. He said, I want to fight for Krishna, which means that he wanted to preach until his very last breath. So this is our line, that we are not meant to lose that focus. We are supposed to both practice and preach. And at the same time, we have to also measure our progress. It's not just some, because we may be taking a very long time. So we should generally consult with devotees. Am I progressing good enough, or what should I do to make it better and things like that? So Rupa Goswami has said that there are 9 symptoms of bhava bhakti. Now those are manifested fully in the stage of bhava, but even before that, these 9 symptoms begin to manifest slowly and until one comes to the stage of bhava bhakti. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that some symptoms, like for example, not those 9 symptoms of bhava, I'll explain that, but other than those 9 symptoms, like for example, somebody can faint ecstasy and these things like that. But these 9 symptoms of bhava, which Rupa Goswami explains, that nobody can fake it. Either you have it or you don't have it. So we can identify a superior Vaishnava by seeing how much of these 9 qualities of bhava they have. Not that necessarily they are situated on the platform of bhava, but those who are on the path of progress will definitely have several of those qualities to a significant extent. So what are those qualities? Rupa Goswami explains, Shantir avyartha kalatvam, viraktir mana shunyata, asha bandha samutkanta, namagane sadaruchi, asaktistat gunakyane, pritistat vasati stale. So Shanti means forgiveness, Prabhupada explains. Forgiveness means Vaishnava doesn't think that he is a very great person, an advanced Vaishnava. So he doesn't take offense. Okay, something happened. But of course, for the sake of correction, sometimes they may correct some others, but they don't take offense. Look at this person offended me. They're willing to forgive. Just forgive. Avyartha kalatvam. Avyartha kalatvam means you will see that they are constantly absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And the test of that is, what do they do in their free time? Of course, they don't have free time. But for example, suppose I'm giving a talk now. Okay, and there's an interruption for 5 minutes, the mic is gone haywire. So what do? Do I make everyone chant Hare Krishna or do I chant? I'm just giving a simple example. So you can see several Vaishnavas who don't lose time. You can, if you are with them and you observe them closely, you will see that they are very constantly absorbed in Krishna consciousness, and they are not wasting time scrolling on the internet or whatever. These are not symptoms of very advanced devotees. Of course, they may still be practicing, but one symptom is that avyartha kala, they don't waste their time. Viraktir mana shunyata. Virakti means they are not attached to material possessions. So Prabhupada, he had castles in Europe, palaces, but in 1977 he was living in a very humble hut in Bhubaneswar. That time it was very remote. I mean, that's for the sake of the preaching, that's it. There is no sign that he was under any form of inconvenience or distress. He was very happy. So this is the symptom of virakti. Wherever a devotee, whether it is heaven or hell, it's the same to them. They are interested in their purpose. Manashunyata. Manashunyata is that one does not think oneself superior to others and expect privileges. One just takes everything as the will of the Lord. And I mean, I often say this in my classes because I've seen this practically, two different situations where two senior devotees were involved. And it was a feast where, one devotee arrived very late after the feast and nothing was kept for him, unfortunately. So then he started screaming, "You don't know that I'm a senior Vaishnava, you couldn't," I was not fortunately involved in, in the organization. I was only involved in whatever they told me to do, I was just doing. So, but of course the organizer of it got all the shouting that why why you didn't keep it, I'm a senior, this, that, all kinds of adjectives, all kinds of designations are used to say that you didn't keep it for me. On the other hand, I've also been in a situation where something very similar like this happened, where someone senior, same situation repeated in a different place, and the reactions were entirely different. What was the reaction? That, "Oh, I came late, it's my fault, it's all right." They just walked away. So this is called manashunyata. So by virtue of position, they don't expect something. Of course, I'm just giving a very simple example. There could be many nuances there, but just to drive home the point, they don't expect something by virtue of their designations. They take whatever happens as Krishna's will, and they take it as their fault. "Oh, I came late, never mind." So, okay. So, Kshantir avyartha kalaktam viraktir mana shunyata asha bandha samutkanta namagane sadaruchi. Asha bandha. Asha bandha means we need to understand that this process of Krishna consciousness is very rare. To achieve Krishna prema is not easy. It's very difficult. Fortunately, we have been given this process. So an advanced devotee, this is called Ashabandha. Prabhupada defines it as hope against hope. There is actually no hope, but this process is so great that even though there is no hope, the process is so powerful it can create hope against hope. So this is the disposition of an advanced devotee, that actually it is a hopeless situation. There is no hope for me, but because I've taken to this process which has been given by the great acharyas, therefore there is hope. And Namagane Sudaruchi. And what is this thing? They're always constantly eager to chant the holy name. They don't waste some time. For them, chanting is like breathing. Like breathing is very natural, spontaneous for us. It happens all the time. For them, chanting is like that. I've seen one advanced devotee. Once, some of us were engaged in shaving for him. Shaving his hair, and even there he was chanting Hare Krishna spontaneously. Generally we would always see him chanting. Even while shaving, he's not sitting and trying to focus. These guys will hurt me or whatever, and he's just, in the mood of just chanting the holy names. So that spontaneity, the namagane, so that they have the natural taste for chanting the holy names. And then asaktista gunakyane, they're always eager. Where can I hear the nectar of Krishna's pastimes? They're very, very eager. When they hear Bhagavatam, they hear it with rapt attention because of their eagerness. And Pritistad vasati stale, they're always attached to the holy places where Krishna performed his pastimes. And these things are visibly manifest. Now, these symptoms, these 9 symptoms, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur clearly explains, this cannot be faked. Because, if you're with a person for one day, then you cannot understand. But if you're with a person for over a period of time, you will see this consistently manifest in their person, if they are advanced. And of course, the Bhava Bhakti, they would fully manifest all of this. But otherwise, you will still find it manifest in them to a great degree. So, as we progress in Krishna consciousness, we should measure ourselves. Because when it says anartha nivritti and all these kind of things, and also we should develop taste, ruchi, asakti. It may appear like vague terms, but there are these 9 points of references. We should measure ourselves against these 9 points. How forgiving are we? Are we wasting time? These 9 things are there. And we know how much distant we are from our goal, seeing how far we are from these 9. So, the whole of the purpose of the Bhagavatam is to make us reach that point of perfection. And Prabhupada calls Krishna consciousness a science. So everything is explained very scientifically. Where could you have this kind of objective 9 criteria? Very nice it is. So you can see yourself. As Prabhupada says, that you don't need to get a certificate in Krishna consciousness. Nobody needs to externally certify you. You can check it yourself. You can see it for yourself. Where are you? Just like Prabhupada quotes the Bhagavatam and he says, just like when someone is hungry, when they eat, one feels pleasure. At the same time, one's hunger is mitigated. That's a very elementary thing to check our progress. And what I spoke about the 9 are more detailed. Elementary is, first of all, my attraction for Krishna should be increasing and my attraction for Maya should be decreasing. Suppose we think, let me make it the best in Krishna consciousness, let me make it the best in the material world. Something is wrong there. So because as we progress, we understand the futility of the material world. That does not mean that we are not enthusiastic about engaging with the world. That's not what is meant by that. We are not fatalists. Rather, we are people who see everything as energy of Krishna. But our tendency to use it for our sense gratification should decrease. That's the meaning. So when we say that we see the material world as useless, it means seeing the material world as useless for our sense gratification. Not useless per se, because it's energy of the Lord. It can be engaged in the service of the Lord. So we should see that our attraction for Krishna should be increasing and our attraction to engage the material energy for our sense gratification should be decreasing. So this is the elementary criteria to check. Prabhupada, as he repeatedly says, this is the test, this is the test, this is the test. So our attraction for Krishna should increase and our attraction for engaging the material energy, to enjoy the material energy for our sense gratification, that should decrease. And then what I explained, these 9 things are, as we progress, then we should be able to see these, where we are in respect to these 9 symptoms of Bhava Bhakti. So, I mean, these are some thoughts which I had about, much more can be said on this topic, but already I think it's quite dense, whatever I spoke. So I'll stop here if there are any comments or questions. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
I'll
Prabhu.
give it to you. Yeah. I'll give it to you after that. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu, for the enlivening class. I really appreciate that. Can you just mention the source of those 9 symptoms once again?
Bhava Bhakti, nectar of devotion.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So you're mentioning these 2 symptoms of someone who's a saraswat.
Yes.
How do we defend against apasiddhantas from entering into our movement? Because I could see that these 2 principles could be easily lost if such ideas are floating around in the society of devotees. So how do we defend how do we create a defense against that and protect ourselves?
How do we defend against tolerating impersonalism and all these things? Is that the question?
Impersonalism, apasiddhanta.
Apasiddhanta. If we notice Prabhupada in all the instances during his physical presence, so he was very friendly with everyone, including Dr. Mishra, who was a Mayavadi. They had a personal, very good relationship. But the moment Prabhupada had an opportunity to speak, he would just speak the truth. That's it. And of course, because of that, Mishra banned him from giving any more talks in his yoga studio. So that was Prabhupada. Similarly, when he would go to the Gita Sammelan and all these different things, So he can maintain we can always maintain a friendly demeanor with everybody. And we can maintain a friendly relationship with everyone. But Prabhupada was not someone who would, if he is sitting somewhere and he hears something which is different from Krishna consciousness, he would not keep quiet. He would have to counter it. But how you counter it is the real issue, not whether we should counter it. There's no question about it. We have to counter it. But how we counter it is very important. So Prabhupada could counter it in a certain style. And if we have that realization, then we can counter it. But we can't just counter it in the same style, sometimes people have that realization and it works. When they speak some very strong words, it hits the person who is hearing it because it's coming from their realization. It's not just coming from okay, Prabhupada said this, I'm just imitating him. But if people have personal realization and present it strongly, so then it works. But if they don't have that personal realization, the very least they can do is that according to our teachings, according to our acharyas, specifically Prabhupada, then this is the actual teaching. At that very least, we are supposed to expect it to do that. If we hear something, not keep quiet. That's just not this thing. That's not just part of our line. We are meant to defeat it. That's our definition. So if it is within our movement, obviously we have to at least refute it. But refute it according the intensity of refutation depends on the level of our realization. But at the very minimum, we should at least quote Prabhupada and say this is not our philosophy.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thanks for explaining actually the meaning of member of ISKCON or mode of actual Prabhupada. So my question is mostly we have some confusion and sometimes we this arguments goes on is there any eligibility required or some purification is required for any service of the Lord or preaching? So is there any this requirement is there?
That's why I gave the example of Prabhupada. He liked how when Saraswati was preaching. So everybody in the Krishna consciousness movement, by their practice, they have some realization. So they should at least transmit that much realization. Even if one is not able to do beyond that, but at least that much. Whatever one knows, one can transmit that. Without transmitting that, the problem is this. You can't, it's not like you become perfect, then you preach. This is not Prabhupada's formula. So we just have to follow the formula that he gave us. He said practice, and whatever you know, you preach. This is the formula that he has given us. So that other thing is just, I mean, it's not coming from Prabhupada at least. I don't know where it's coming from. I mean, you could say it's theoretical or whatever, but it's not coming from Prabhupada. Prabhupada is very clear. You chant, I mean, you follow scripture, chant, practice Krishna consciousness, and whatever you know, you preach. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself says that, no? Yare deko tare ko ho Krishna upadesh.
Like if any neophyte, like if immediately enter into the ISKCON and start preaching, so like this can't be risky, like for him or like for like, you know.
Oh, when I say preaching, there are various kinds of preaching. When you take a book out to distribute, you need to know something about the book to be able to tell them this book is about something. You know, like Prabhupada said, my knowledge is not in the books, I should also know it. You know, so we need to know that much at least. And whether they can give talks and all that, that's not, I mean, today you have the world of social media, so no, everybody's got the freedom to talk. But what can be done? That I don't think it can be ever regulated. People will always end up doing it. But those of us who want to practice Krishna consciousness seriously, first of all, we should focus on trying to understand what is Prabhupada saying. Then we can start looking at what all the different other people are saying. Of course, I'm not saying about, I mean, because it's an unlimited world. You know, for example, we have Bhagavatam class here. Okay, so what happens in the Bhagavatam class? You have Prabhupada's purport. Then you have a speaker who speaks his realization on Prabhupada's purport. Correct? So you have Prabhupada's teachings and a speaker who's supposed to speak on this. Sometimes speakers may speak something else. That's a different thing. But I'm just talking about the ideal thing is that you have Prabhupada's purport and the speaker is supposed to speak on the purport. So that way you have something to cross-verify, right? Like for example, ideally all speakers, they should reference Prabhupada whenever they speak. I mean, they should use his books or use what he has given. For example, if they're giving a talk, they should be able to give read some text which Prabhupada has given and explain those texts rather than just speak extempore or whatever their realizations are. So there are some checks and balances.
Major, like people are using like Prabhupada quotes and you know like for their own purpose, you know. So it's really like in their personal relationship and their social media preaching. So they are misusing Prabhupada quotes, you know, sometimes. So there's a major problem coming near now.
Yeah, but what can we do? It is the world of, it's a free world. It's the world of social media. So we can only, we can stick to our practice of reading Prabhupada's books and following. And whomever we come in contact with, we can teach them the right method. That what we can do, like how do you say, you can't solve that kind of a problem on your own. It's not possible. You can only do what you can do, which is that you follow nicely. And whomever you are in touch with, teach them that.
Thank you.
Okay, so if there are no further comments or questions, we'll end here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.